Hello and welcome into my review for Tales of Eternia, available for the PlayStation 1 and the Sony PSP. This game is the third game that was made in the Tales of game series and it originally released on the PlayStation 1. This game released in Japan in November 2000, and then in the US the game would be released in September of 2001 under the title of Tales of Destiny 2 for the PlayStation 1. It was called Tales of Destiny 2 incorrectly because the real title of the game is actually Tales of Eternia. Later on, Tales of Eternia would get a PSP port and would be released in Japan and Europe, but it would never get a US localization for the PSP version. Keep in mind that the background footage for the review is from my stream playthrough of the game. I show my stream playthrough in the background footage of the review, so that way you can see that I've played the game and completed it prior to reviewing the game. Alright, with all that being said, it's time to start talking more about the game and to finally answer the question, is Tales of Eternia a game that is worth playing? Well, let's get right into that right now. Tales of Eternia begins with you playing the role of the main character Reed. One day, while Reed is hanging out with his friend Farah, a massive ship crashes nearby them in a forest. They find a survivor aboard the ship who is a girl named Meredy that Reed and Farah cannot communicate with. Wanting to help this mysterious person who arrived in the spaceship that crashed, Reed and Farah agree to help her. In their village, outsiders are forbidden from living there, so Meredy is not allowed into the village. Reed and Farah, not wanting to abandon Meredy after meeting her, decide to help her and are banished from their village. After being banished from the village, they look for their friend Keel for a means to be able to communicate with Meredy. Eventually, their journey brings them to learn about an event called the Grand Fall. Basically, the Grand Fall is a major catastrophic event that will happen where the two rogues in the world of Tales of Eternia, the world of Etheria and the world of Celestia, will crash into each other and it will end up destroying both of the rogues. After finding out about what the Grand Fall is, Reed and his group of allies go on a journey to gather the greater Kramels and to try and stop the Grand Fall from happening. Now that I've talked a little bit about the story of the game, let's talk about how Tales of Eternia plays. Tales of Eternia is an action RPG game. The game will have you explore in different areas, collecting items, weapons, armor, and seeing different story events. There's towns in the game where you'll usually see story events, and then you'll also have stores in these towns where you can buy items, weapons, or armor for your characters. In between towns and other locations in the game, such as dungeons, you'll travel across the world map to reach these different locations. At areas such as dungeons in the game, you'll explore around, find treasure chests containing weapons, armor, and items. Also, while exploring in dungeons and walking across the world map, you'll also get into random battles. The battles in Tales of Eternia are action RPG battles. The combat in this game is a huge improvement over the game's two predecessors, Tales of Fantasia and Tales of Destiny for the PlayStation 1. Battles in Tales of Eternia are lightning fast and are very fast paced. And in battle, the controls and feel of the combat are improved over previous Tales games. Character movement in battle is a lot more smooth, a lot more responsive, and those aren't the only improvements in the combat system of Tales of Eternia. In Tales of Eternia, one of the biggest improvements of the combat system is that spells no longer pause the battle during their animation. In Tales of Fantasia and the original Tales of Destiny back on the PlayStation 1, normally when you casted a spell, during the spell animation the battle would pause and you would have to wait until the animation was over before combat resumed. In Tales of Eternia though, when spells are cast, the battle continues going on normally during the spell, and the spell cast happens in real time instead of pausing the battle during the spell animation. This helps spells be a lot better balanced in the game. It also helps make battles much faster paced because the spell animation is not making battles pause. In battle in Tales of Eternia, you can move, guard to block enemy attacks. You can attack enemies with regular attacks, or you can also use attack abilities or spells to do damage to enemies. In addition, you can also use healing abilities or use items to heal characters during combat. In battle in Tales of Eternia, you can battle with up to 4 party members who you choose. Now, during battles, you will be fighting enemies until you defeat all enemies and win the battle, or all characters have their health dropped to 0 and you're wiped out, resulting in a game over. Once a battle is won, you will gain EXP and Gold. EXP in Tales of Eternia is used to help characters level up. Tales of Eternia has a traditional RPG character leveling system. The other resource I talked about that you get for winning battles, which is Gold, is basically a currency that you can use in the game to buy weapons, armor, and items from stores in the game. Tales of Eternia also has great dungeons as well. The dungeons have different puzzles in them. Some dungeons you gotta step on a switch that's on the floor, and depending on the floor switch that you step on, you basically open different doors in the dungeon. Other dungeons you got like a time limit and you have to make it through the dungeon before the time limit is out, or else your character starts taking damage. So there's different unique puzzles in the dungeons in the game, and I felt that the difficulty of the puzzles was pretty well done. They weren't super extremely easy, but they also weren't so hard that I got stuck on them for hours and hours with no clue what to do. Now, sometimes during the main story, you'll have to do mini games, and these mini games can range from using a paddle to raft your way down a river to throwing bombs at enemies trying to catch up to a train that you're riding on. Personally, I thought some of the mini games weren't really that great. Some of them just didn't control too well. There was a few mini games that were fun to do, but overall I would say they're kind of a flaw of the game. Now, the next feature of the game I want to talk about is the Kreml magic system, which is how your spellcasters in the game learn all of their spells. So basically, spellcasters in Tales of Eternia, instead of getting their spells by leveling up, they get it from Kremls in the game. So as you travel through the world of Tales of Eternia, you get the power of greater Kremls who join you. And greater Kremls are like summoning spirits that have different elemental powers. So once you obtain one, they're put into what is called a Kreml cage. And then basically you have to do what is called fringing, which is like combining them to learn new spells. Personally, I felt that this gameplay mechanic was very confusing at first, and it took me a little while to learn it. And I personally didn't really like this gameplay system of learning spells this way too much. Personally, in the game, I would have preferred if you just got spells by leveling these characters and they learned it by getting to a certain level. Alright, so now a big important question a lot of people might be asking is, which version of the game should I play? Should you play the original PlayStation 1 version, or should you play the PSP version? In my opinion, I recommend the PSP version. The reason why is that the game has faster loading times, and the graphics have been updated to a 16:9 widescreen aspect ratio. So overall, that's just about going to cover it for the gameplay of Tales of Eternia. Now let's start talking about the story of Tales of Eternia and the characters of the game. The story of the game has a great start. From the start, I was invested in figuring out the mystery of who Merity was after she crashes in the ship and everybody finds her, and finding out more about the world she came from. The characters of the game were really great. I enjoyed seeing their interactions and the conversations between them in the game. There was a ton of funny story scenes in the game, and a few cutscenes made me laugh pretty hard in this game. Despite some of the silly scenes in the story though, there are some parts in the second half of the game where the story takes some very dark turns. Some of the plot twists later in the story really surprised me because of how dark some of those moments of the story became. That all being said though, I do have some criticisms to make of the main cast. One of my criticisms comes with the main character of the game, Reed. I like the main character, Reed, but I did not feel like he fulfilled the role of a hero. Throughout the story of Tales of Eternia, Reed is pretty apathetic towards the overall crisis in the main story of the game until near the end of the game. Instead, the main heroine of the game, Farah, was really the one the whole entire game who was motivating everyone to focus on saving the world throughout the story. My second criticism of the story is that for some characters of the story, you really don't find out a whole lot about their backstory until all the way in the second half of the game. I wish that in the story I would have gotten to see more character development of the main characters in the first half of the game. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the music of the game and the graphics, and then we'll wrap the review up after that. So in terms of music, Tales of Eternia has a great soundtrack. There's a lot of really great battle themes, especially the second random battle theme of the game, which is really, really good. And the town themes were kind of hit and miss. Some of the town themes were really, really good, and then others were kind of forgettable, and I probably wouldn't listen to them outside the game. The boss themes in the game were also really good, and one of the best parts of Tales of Eternia is that many story scenes in the game have full voice acting. This is back in the PS1 era when this game was made, and at that time, many games did not have voice acting unless it was like for a very short segment of a game. But in Tales of Eternia, many story scenes have full voice acting. Now, the voice acting isn't the best in the world. It's definitely not all that great. But despite that problem, I found the voice acting to make the story events in the game a lot better, and I really enjoyed having the voice acting in the story events of the game. And to be a really cool feature for the game to have, considering the time period it came from. Now, in terms of the art style, I think the game has an art style that has aged very well. It has a cool 2D art style, and the backgrounds in the game are really, really well designed. I think that this art style is held up and aged a lot better than 3D PS1 games. Final Fantasy VII, which is a game I like a lot, but the characters in that game, outside of battle and the graphics, the character models, they look like Lego characters. They got like little square hands, and it really has not aged very well graphically. And so I think going with this 2D art style has really helped this game's graphics age very well. Overall, Tales of Eternia, I think, is a great game. This is a very overlooked Tales of game. I think this game ranks very high up there as possibly one of my favorite Tales of games. I really enjoyed replaying through this game recently. This game massively improved on the gameplay over its predecessors. It has an amazing art style, good music, and a really great cast of characters. Ultimately, I want to say thank you so much for watching the video. Please make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and also follow me over on Twitch, where I stream the games that I eventually review here on the channel. I have a new thing on my Twitch channel where you can choose the next game that I play through on stream. It is a channel point option that you can redeem on my Twitch channel. If you redeem that option, you get to choose the next game that I play through, from the beginning of the game to the end credits. Either way, thank you all so much. I really greatly appreciate everybody taking the time to watch this video, and I will catch you all in the next video. Thank you all so much.